The notification came in at 5:47 in the morning. I know because I was already awake, staring at the ceiling of the apartment we had shared for 2.5 years, listening to the sound of a suitcase zipper I pretended not to hear. Her name is Dara. She has this way of existing in a space, quietly, completely, where you never quite notice how much of the air she takes up until she's about to leave. And suddenly you can't breathe right. I noticed. I had been noticing for 3 weeks, which is exactly how long it had been since I said the thing that I said, the thing I cannot take back and at the time did not want to. The thing that was true in the worst possible way a truth can be. Accurate and devastating and delivered at the exact wrong moment, like a knife you hand someone handle first. She was moving because of me, not out of anger. That would have been easier. She was moving because she was embarrassed, and embarrassed people don't yell, they disappear. And she had found a sublet 6 blocks away and told me about it like she was reporting a weather forecast. Calm and flat, her eyes focused on a point slightly above my left ear. I had 20 minutes before she was gone, and I was lying there doing nothing. Here is the thing about Dara that I had known for 2.5 years and somehow never said out loud. She is the person who notices. Not in the performing way. Not in the way where someone tracks your mood to use it against you later. In the way where you come home ruined from a phone call you didn't mention and there is already tea on the counter, already the specific kind. The one you only drink when something is wrong. Sitting there without a word of explanation because she didn't want to make you say out loud that you were not okay. She did that for 2.5 years. I noticed she did that approximately 48 hours before she started packing. The thing I said, I should explain. There had been a party, which is how most explanations begin that end in someone sleeping on a sublet couch 6 blocks away. Dara had been seeing someone, loosely, in that indefinite modern way, where no one names what's happening because naming it makes it a thing that can fail. His name was either Garrett or Gavin, I was never fully certain. And he was at the party. And he was also talking to someone else at the party in a way that was not ambiguous and that Dara absolutely saw. She came and found me on the back porch. She wasn't crying. She was doing the thing she does when she is trying not to cry, which is that she becomes extremely interested in the texture of whatever surface is nearby. And she was running her thumb across the railing like she was reading it. She said, "I think I misread the situation." And I said, "I know, I've been watching you misread it for 2 months." Which was true, which was the accurate thing. Which was, I understood the moment it left my mouth. One of the crueler things I had ever said to another person, because what it communicated beneath the words was, I saw this coming, and I said nothing, and I let you walk into it. She looked at me, not angry, just looked at me. And then she said, "Okay," in that flat weather forecast voice. And that was the last real thing she said to me for 3 weeks. And now it was 5:47 in the morning, and I could hear the suitcase. I had a decision to make, and approximately 18 minutes to make it. The calculation I had been running for 3 weeks, the one that had kept me horizontal and useless at 5:47 a.m., went like this. Anything I say now will sound like I am saying it because she is leaving. She will hear it as a performance of remorse staged for an audience of 1. She is not stupid. She will know that I had 3 weeks to say something and chose silence. And she will correctly identify that me suddenly having words at the exact moment her suitcase is zipped is not a coincidence, but a panic. And panicked words are not the same as honest words, even when they happen to be true. That was the calculation. The reason I had said nothing for 3 weeks and was about to say nothing again. The problem with the calculation was that it was also, I realized somewhere around minute 14 of staring at the ceiling. Completely wrong. Because the thing I was afraid of, her knowing I was saying this because she was leaving, was already obvious. She knew. She wasn't going to think I had chosen this moment arbitrarily. The only question was whether I said the true thing or whether I said nothing. And saying nothing had a cost I had been undercounting. Saying nothing meant she left believing that what I said on the porch was all I had. That the observation was the full inventory of what I thought about her. That I had watched and clocked and assessed. And the sum of 2.5 years was that I saw her mistake coming and kept it to myself. That was not the inventory. That was not even close. I got up. The hallway between my room and hers is 11 steps, and I know this because I had counted it approximately 40 times in my head over the prior 3 weeks imagining walking it. I walked it. Her door was open because she was maneuvering the suitcase, and she needed the width. She looked up, not surprised. People who are leaving are rarely surprised when someone comes to stop them. They are surprised when no one does. I said, "I need to tell you something that I should have told you on the porch instead of what I said." She waited. This is the part that is hard to explain in a way that doesn't sound like a speech. Because it wasn't a speech. It was just the accurate thing said plainly, which is apparently what I had been incapable of for 3 weeks. I told her that what I had said was true and also incomplete. That yes, I had watched her misread the situation for 2 months. That what I hadn't said was why I watched it. That I watched it because watching Dara hope for something is one of the more specific privileges of my particular life. And I had not wanted to be the person who interrupted it. That I had said nothing because I thought the situation would resolve itself in her favor, and I didn't want to introduce doubt into something that might still work. And when it didn't work, I had said the worst possible version of the thing I had been holding, the accurate version stripped of every reason I'd been holding it. I said, "I knew because I pay attention to you. I've been paying attention to you for 2.5 years. You make tea I didn't ask for. That is exactly what I needed. And I noticed that, and I have never once said so." She didn't say anything. I said, "That's the part I left out on the porch. That's the part I came to give you. There is a specific sound a rolling suitcase makes when someone lets go of the handle and it settles back onto all 4 wheels. I did not know I would learn to love that sound. I love it now. It is one of my favorite sounds." She let go of the handle. She didn't say much for a while. She sat down on the edge of her bed, in the way people sit when they've been braced for something and the thing didn't happen, and they don't quite know what to do with their body yet. And then she said, eventually, that she had thought about what I said on the porch a lot, and that what had bothered her most was not that I saw it coming, but that she had apparently been transparent enough to see. I told her that being readable is not the same as being foolish. She said she knew that. And then, "I just didn't know you were the one reading." I said, "I'm always the one reading." She said, "I know that now." The sublet 6 blocks away sat empty for 11 days while she decided what to pay them to break it. We went back and forth on the logistics the way people do when they are finding a practical container for something that has no practical shape. She paid a small penalty. She put the suitcase back in the closet. We had dinner that night, both of us slightly formal and overly polite the way you are when the ordinary thing is suddenly new. And then eventually the formality dissolved, and we were just us again. Which is to say, she made tea without being asked, and I said thank you specifically instead of just taking it. And she looked at me a little sideways when I did. Like the acknowledgement was a new variable she was still calibrating. I am still calibrating too. That is the honest report. What I know now that I did not know on the porch. The accurate thing and the complete thing are not the same thing, and sending only the accurate version is not neutral. It is its own choice. I made that choice by accident, out of cowardice dressed as restraint, and it almost cost me the person who has, without ceremony or credit, been paying attention to my life from 11 steps down the hall. She didn't know I was the one reading. I didn't know she needed to know. The suitcase is in her closet. The apartment smells like the tea she made this morning before I was awake, the specific kind. I did not ask for it. It was already there. I'm not sure what you call what we are. I'm not sure it needs a name right now. What I know is that the most important sentence I have ever said in that apartment was not the true thing I said on the porch. It was the incomplete thing I came back to finish at 5:47 in the morning in a hallway I had counted 11 steps across 40 times without walking. She unpacked everything. So did I. Tell me, have you ever watched someone you cared about walk towards something you could see wasn't going to hold them, and stayed quiet because you didn't want to be wrong, or because you didn't want to be the one who interrupted their hope? And if you have, is there something you've never finished saying to them? Because I think the door is probably still open. I think it's almost always still open. Leave it in the comments. I'll read everyone.